there, and welcome to our weekly craft, source for ideas, inspiration, and fun for crafters. I'm Sarah White, Chief Maker at ourdailycraft.com, and today I want to talk about vacation crafting. It is way too hot in Arkansas right now. It's May 12th as I do this. My car on the way home from getting my daughter just now after school said it was 95 degrees, and that is not normal. It is not good. It is making me really grouchy and ready for my vacation, because at least at the beach, when it's that hot, there's an ocean there and there's a breeze and it's not as terrible. And we are going on vacation in a few weeks, and to me, more important than like what clothes I'm gonna pack or what things we're gonna do while we're there, really the keys for me are what knitting projects I bring and what books I bring. And so we'll probably talk about books in the interim before that vacation as well, but today I want to talk about knitting projects. I did not mention I am wearing a rather wrinkly shirt number 1 by Sonia Phillip, 100 Acts of Sewing. It's very similar to, I think I've worn a 100 Acts of Sewing dress. Maybe I haven't shown you that yet, but to come. Oh, I did wear another one of these shirts a couple weeks ago, I guess. This one actually weirdly seems to fit a little better, even though I think that I use the same size. There's just there may even be a little less drape in this fabric than in the other one, which makes it feel like it fits a little better. This shirt reminds me of Scrubs. I don't know if it's the fabric design or the fit or what, and you know, I say that like it's a bad thing. It's comfy. It's good for when it's like ridiculous hot outside. So I'm good with that. I'm currently knitting a bra. This is the Ripple bralette. Is that right? Yes, I think so. By Jessie Maed. This is the second one of these I have made. I hate wearing bras, and a knit bra sounds like it'd be terrible because it's like wool, right? But they're so comfortable, and because they're stretchy and they're soft, and it's just really nice. This one is, the whole body is 3x3 ribs, so it's super stretchy. It just conforms to your body in the way that like a normal bra cannot do. And it's the perfect thing for if you have to wear a bra when it's hot, at least you can wear something that's comfy. And wool is actually good for, you don't have to obviously knit one out of wool. This happens to be wool, but wool is also good for warm weather because it can be cooling as well as warming. So it's a good thing all year round. So this is going to be done. This is also a super fast project, which I like because I feel like I was mired in some big sweaters and projects recently. I'm still knitting these leggings that I started last year, and I feel like they should almost be done. And I tried them on last weekend, and I've got like easily 12 inches on each leg left to do. So that was a little demoralizing and made me feel like some instant gratification was a good thing. But that's also important to me when I am picking vacation projects. I kind of like to have a long thing and a short thing and maybe something else. Usually I take like 3 or 4 projects. So we're going to Florida, to the beach. It's about a 12-hour drive each way, and we break it up over 2 days. I usually don't end up actually doing any driving, which is awesome because knitting time, right? So I need like a lot of, and actually last year I almost didn't have enough. I was working on some baby knitting projects for a book, which actually just came out. If you want to check it out, it is a 10 pattern baby knitting ebook that's available from craftgossip.com. I'll put the link in the show notes. And so I was doing like the Snuggly, there's like a sleep sack, which took like an hour. I mean, it was probably longer than that, but it seemed like it went so fast. And then I was like, whoa, how is this project done already? I'm gonna run out of things to do. I was also doing a baby blanket, and those take forever, so it was fine. And I had like a knit shirt that I'm actually still working on. I don't think I've worked on it since our vacation last year, so I'll probably take that one again if I haven't finished it before then. I am thinking about socks this year. And I may have told you about that I had some, I'm just looking around to see if it's handy. I have some rainbow colored sock yarn that I dyed using tie-dye yarn, tie-dye yarn. I made tie-dye yarn. No, I don't think it's handy, but the shirt is, so I'll show you that. And I've been meaning, and I made it, I dyed the yarn last September, and I still haven't done anything with it, and so I was thinking that that would be a fun thing to take. And socks are great because they take a relatively long time and use a relatively small amount of yarn. So if you have, like, you know, issues with space in your car or in your, you know, airplane carry-on or whatever, you know, with a single ball of yarn or maybe two, you can knit a pair of socks, and it takes, you know, many hours to do. So that is a good yarn use to time ratio to space in your thing, in your bag. This is the shirt I was working on last summer vacation. It is the Sea Glass tee. It's Woolen Pine Designs, I think. They have this was a short sleeve version. They have a sweater version, a long sleeve sweater version now too. But it's so fun because this is just sock yarn, and it's one stitch in one color, one stitch in the other color, repeated all the way around forever. And so it's perfect for stash busting because you can just tie on your next one and it just flows. And you can tell that I've like changed my background color too, but it's kind of a fun, scrappy, but still looks harmonious project. And that one I kind of was about to run out of yarn. I have one of my balls of yarn too while we were traveling, so that's why I didn't finish or didn't get farther along on it. I also wanted to show you this because I have cats, and one of my cats in particular is very interested in stealing yarn, and this is also just a good way to store projects. But if you don't already do this, this is a bag from a blanket, but you know, the bags that sheets come in, blankets come in, because they have zippers. It's great for if you have thieving animals in your household. It also keeps things clean, you know, in your I didn't do this right, but in your luggage, if you're packing things, you can smoosh all the air out, and then it doesn't take up a lot of space. It's got handles, it's easy to carry around. It's really just a great way to store projects, whether you're traveling or not. I mean, I do use them when I travel, or like the fabric project bags are great for traveling too. If you have a small, again, like a sock, would fit easily in a standard cloth project bag. I actually just made a cloth project bag that has a zipper top because cats, again. It's also not handy. If I hadn't thought this, if I ever thought these through a little bit more than I actually do, I'd have visual aids handy, but I didn't. But I can link to that project as well down below. And it's just a long, it's like, I made it with fabric left over from mask making, so it's like the twice, or you know, the size around is 2 layers of mask, so it's like, you know, and 3 tall, so it's like this size. I have I have my achu in there, which I showed you like way back at the beginning. It's still not done. I'm on the sleeves, but I am realizing that my yarn consumption was not happening as quickly as I expected on that project, and I knit the top of it in a contrasting yarn, and I don't love the way it looks, and I think that I have enough of the yarn that I was using for the rest of the body that I can just go ahead and re-knit that. Here's my plan. So I'm going to knit the top part again to where I started working in the, it's gray, but where I started working in the gray yarn the first time. And then I'm going to like snip the yarn and unravel the top and then graft it to the bottom part that I've already knit, because it would be silly to, maybe not, maybe worse than silly, it would be an incredible waste to rip out the entire sweater just to reknit. It's like this part of the body, it's the shoulders, you know, basically to where the shoulders separate. So because it's top down, it's the Henley part and the first part of the sleeves and the shoulders. And it took a lot of time to knit that part because it's kind of like, the shoulder construction is interesting, and it's a little, you know, you're knitting back and forth instead of in the round because it's a Henley. It's got the button plackets, and I don't want to relive the whole project again, because I did the, you know, I literally knit the whole body already, and had started on a sleeve, and that's why I'm like, oh, I just have the sleeves left and I still have 2 whole balls, and they're like 350 yards each or something. There's no way I'm actually going to need all that yarn based on what I used on the body for the sleeves, and I would rather have just a solid gray raglan, because I know that I'll wear it more, even though, you know, the original pattern had this speckled yarn that was used, and that's why I chose what I chose to start it with. I just don't like it that much. I mean, like, I know that I would knit it and I would wear it occasionally, but I think I would get a lot more use out of it if I go ahead and redo it. And that's the fun thing about making stuff yourself, is that you can decide midstream, be like, yeah, I don't really love that. What can I do to fix it? And most of the time there is something you can do, you know. It's a little bit of surgery to hack it back together. But that's kind of a fun challenge too, and you know, it shouldn't be difficult. It's just like taking the time to do it right. That, I mean, it could be, I could take the top, do the top part as vacation knitting. I tend to like things that are easier. You know, I like the Fields of Stockinette Stitch. And that socks, again, you know, it's easy. Things you don't necessarily have to look at the whole time you're knitting, because I like to look around while I'm in the car. You know, sometimes if you get car sick, you don't want to be looking at your needles or your hands the whole time. You know, I don't know how, I guess if you're like a crocheter, you learn to crochet without looking at your hands. I'm not that good at crochet yet, so that's why I mostly do knitting projects for travel. But so I guess that the guidelines for travel knitting when it comes, or any kind of crafting, is like considering how you're traveling, because if you're going by car, bus, it's different. Well, not a bus necessarily, even although it would take more time. I guess the traveling part takes more time than if you're in an airplane, but you know, the amount that you can bring varies depending on if you're in a car, if you're on an airplane. You know, people often wonder about the rules for taking knitting on airplanes. I guess that's a less common question than it used to be, because we're all kind of used to the regulations that have been on us for 21 years, whatever, since September 11th. But all knitting needles should be allowed on domestic American flights. If you live in a different country or you're flying to a different country, you should check with your particular airline to make sure that that is true, but it should be true. I usually, when I fly, will take something that's on circular needles, and I will kind of like pull the needles down and tuck them into the project and like have it like in the yarn, so it doesn't even look like knitting necessarily. And I do tend to bring, you know, projects on smaller needles which also is another good, like, if you need to take a small project, something that uses smaller yarn and smaller needles is going to take longer, and so you can pack less if you have a small yarn, small needle project like socks or a bra. But then if you're planning to take multiple projects, I do tend to take something that's like straight stockinette, and then possibly something that's a little more complicated just for like in the condo knitting. I have this, and this I think I can reach from here. I have this shawl that is neither straight stockinette or particularly mindless. Excuse me while I stretch over to my unfinished projects drawer. It is here. This is so also Ziploc bags if you don't have the big like blanket or sheet bags. You can use a Ziploc bag in a pinch. This is Belinda, is that what it's called? I don't have the thing. It's Belinda by Mason Dixon Knitting. It was in their first book. And it's this sort of open work. It's in Kid Silk Haze. And it's pretty easy. It's not quite take your eyes off it knitting though. Though I do think that all that I have here was done in the car. Over a couple of vacations, honestly, and this is very sad because I have been working on it for years, and it is supposed to be like immensely longer, like huge when it's finished, and I have barely started, even though it's been years. By the amount of progress I have, it looks like I've just barely started. So I may grab that one again, even though it is kind of it takes me a while to get back into it after I haven't knit on it for years, or a year even. Sometimes I kind of like having the distraction of something that's a little bit harder. So I may take that as well. And I mean, that's one thing that I like about doing travel projects. Like, if there's something you're working on that's been hard for you to finish, but it's just because you won't sit down and do it, that's a good project to take with you when you're locked in a car and you can't get away from it and you have nothing else to do. Just be like, okay, I'm gonna grind this thing out, and then there's vacation at the end. Or some other project that you bring along but you keep like in a bag in some place you can't reach until you finish the thing that you need to finish. So if you're not a knitter or a crocheter, you can also take projects with you when you travel, of course. Cross stitch, doing sewing by hand, you know, their travel watercolor kits. You know, if you draw, you can bring paper and pens and pencils. My daughter is a big drawer, and so she will probably have a travel art kit that she brings. She doesn't necessarily do art in the car so much because, you know, roads are bumpy, and she just tends to watch videos and watch the scenery and things. She gets a little woozy in the car, so not focusing on something down is better for her sometimes. But I would love to hear your thoughts about what you pack when you are going on vacation in terms of crafts. I don't have my whole list figured out, obviously, but I'm excited to think about it. Oh, also, I was thinking about tank tops because it's hot. So I kind of am hoping that I'll have some time, though I know that I always imagine that I'm going to have more time to knit than I do. So I don't really expect to have time, but I have a couple of sort of summery yarns that I would like to be able to knit some tank tops. So I might take one of those with me because if I finish it, then I can wear it while I'm at the beach, and that would be fun. But I do, and that's another thing, like I like having a project that I can do from start to finish while I'm on vacation, because then it becomes a memory of the vacation too. So, you know, it might be one year I knit a, I can't remember the name of it. I knit a shawl. It was one of the kind of popular patterns that was going around. And I cannot remember the name of it, but I knit the whole shawl while on vacation. And so that's sort of a memory for me when I wear that. It reminds me of being at the beach, or driving to the beach more accurately, because I was mostly working on that one in the car. But it was a sock yarn shawl, and that's another, again, the sizable project with a small amount of yarn and a smaller needle size. That takes you a long way on car trips. But anyway, when I do figure out what I'm taking, I'm sure I will let you know. But I would love to hear if you have any tips for, or like rules of thumb that you use when you're planning vacation projects. Do you plan vacation projects? Do you just grab whatever you're working on? You know, that would probably make more sense if I just been like, whatever I'm doing right now, I will take with me, and I don't need to start anything new, and I don't need to give it a lot of thought. But really, it's kind of fun to me to be like, oh, I need vacation projects, and I need vacation books. And that's, you know, part of the fun. A lot of the fun, it like makes the travel part more bearable, because I know that I have something fun to work on while I'm there. I am still reading and watching the exact same things I have been for the past couple of weeks. I'm about 70-ish% done with Cloud Cuckoo Land. It's really weird and interesting, and I have a lot of friends who really liked it, and I can see why, but it's really hard to explain what's going on in there. If you're into like literary with a little bit of science fiction and a little bit of ancient history and like all tied up together, you should check it out. And I am watching, I just started season 2 of Big Little Lies. Is that what it's called? I'm still going to be trying to call it the wrong thing. Which, of course, because I read the book and there is no season 2 of the book, like covered the book in season 1, so it'll be interesting to see where that goes. We just started Station 11, speaking of books turned series. It is on HBO. It is a limited series based on the Emily St. John Mandel book Station 11, which came out in 2014, but it's about the aftermath of a global pandemic. And so it was like really, it's hard to work ourselves up to watching it, because I knew that it was good. I loved the book. It's really good and worth reading even in these times. But it's hard going into it knowing what that first episode especially, and even the author said she wasn't involved in the production of the show because they filmed it during COVID times. And even she said, like, the first episode is really hard to get through, and the rest of it is more uplifting than you'd expect for a show about this kind of post-apocalyptic, you know, where the majority of the world's population has died off in a terrible flu. I did almost cry in the first episode, because there's this scene with all the people trying to get into the hospital, and you know, COVID was never that bad here where I live, where they didn't have like makeshift field hospitals in the street and things. I know there were places, there have been places, there probably are still places in the world where that's a reality. And so it's just really hard to like watch that and know that that's more real for us. And I'm sure it's been real in other parts of the world where pandemics, you know, Ebola and things have happened that don't touch us in America as much. And so it's interesting to have that perspective now and not feel that privilege of like, oh, that never happens here. You know, it wouldn't be like that here. I know it has been like that here. So we've just watched the first episode, but I think that that's going to be good. And if you liked the book, I encourage you to watch it. If you haven't read the book, maybe read the book first. I don't know. I'll let you know when I'm done. But I think that's all for this week. I would love to hear what you are working on, what you are reading or watching or planning to go on vacation, what you're taking with you if you have a vacation planned. And I hope that you have a crafty week, and I will see you again soon.